Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, and for more bedtime stories, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. In the beginning, I didn't hate Irene. I didn't like her, not really. But hate? Number. That came later. When my dad introduced us, I was 12, awkward, and still trying to get used to my mom being gone. My mother had died 2 years earlier from a brain aneurysm that struck without warning. One minute she was reading on the couch, the next she was on the floor. It was sudden. It was final. It wrecked me. My dad, Tom, tried his best, I'll give him that. He didn't bring anyone home for a year. Then came Irene. She was polite the first time, made lasagna, smiled too much, wore perfume that smelled like oranges and chemicals. She was trying, and so was I. I nodded at her questions, thanked her for the food, and even laughed at one of her stories about teaching kindergarten. I thought we could maybe build something like friendship, but within weeks of her moving in, the cracks started to show. She didn't like clutter. That meant no posters in my room, no toys on the floor, not even my framed photo of Mom on the dresser. She said it was depressing to look at someone who'd passed on. Dad didn't say anything about that. He just looked down at his plate. She didn't like screens at night. That meant she'd walk past my door every 20 minutes after 8 p.m. to make sure I wasn't using my tablet or phone. If she saw the faintest glow under the door, she'd burst in. Once she even took my phone for a week. She didn't like disrespect, which meant any time I disagreed with her, even mildly, I was punished. Silent treatments, locking away my stuff, screaming matches that left me shaking. She didn't hit me. She never did. Irene was smarter than that, but she knew how to wear you down. Dad knew something was off, but he always talked about balance and keeping peace and how I just had to give it time. So I gave it time. 2 years to be exact, and I gave it all the benefit of the doubt, until that 1 week in October. That was the week I almost didn't make it out of her house alive. Monday. My dad's job was sending him out of state for a 5-day leadership seminar. He worked in IT security, and had recently been promoted to regional director. The trip was something he'd been prepping for since July. I had begged him to let me stay at my best friend's place, Marcus. His mom was like a second parent to me. She said it was fine, even wrote a note. But Irene said no. She told Dad it was important that she and I spend time alone to connect. She used that sweet, phony voice she always used when manipulating him. She even smiled when she looked at me, her hand on his knee like a claw. Dad hesitated. "It'll only be a few days, kiddo. You'll be fine." I tried not to cry in front of him. I nodded, smiled, swallowed the knot in my throat. The day he left, she didn't even wait until his Uber pulled out of the driveway before locking the front door and pocketing the keys. I knew then it was going to be bad. I just didn't know how bad. Tuesday. The first night passed quietly. I stayed in my room, texting Marcus and pretending it wasn't as tense as it was. She made dinner, microwaved broccoli, dry chicken. I took one bite and said I wasn't hungry. "Fine," she said, smiling. "Starve." She walked away. I noticed she didn't leave any food in the kitchen that wasn't locked behind the pantry cabinet. She'd installed a magnetic lock on it a month ago, to keep snacks from spoiling, she claimed. I was smart. I kept snacks under my bed, granola bars, a half-empty box of crackers, enough to get by. At least I thought so. Wednesday. That's when it really started. At around 8:30 p.m., I was lying in bed watching a show on my phone with headphones on. She burst in. "Off!" she snapped, yanking the phone from my hands. "What did I say about screens?" I tried to grab it back. "Please, just one episode, then I'll go to bed." She slapped my hand away and walked out, taking my charger and the phone with her. I stood up and followed her down the hall. "I need it," I said, my voice cracking. "It's mine." She turned around slowly. "It's not yours. Your father bought it. That makes it ours." Don't follow me again." She shut her bedroom door. I heard the key turn in the lock. That's when I realized she had locked the hallway closet too. And the fridge. I turned to go back to my room and realized she had closed my door behind me. Click. I tried the handle. It didn't move. Thursday. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up drenched in sweat, stomach cramping. See, I have type 1 diabetes. Diagnosed when I was 9. I manage it with an insulin pump and glucose sensors. My dad monitors it. Irene? She never asked, never cared. She thought I exaggerated it. I checked my arm. My sensor had come loose. I went to my nightstand for the backup. It was gone. So was my pump. That's when panic set in. I banged on the door, screamed, "Irene, I need my pump, please, I haven't eaten, I'm going low, please." No answer. My body started to shake. I felt cold and hot at once. Dizzy. I knew if I didn't get sugar or insulin, I'd pass out. Maybe worse. I banged again, and again. I thought of climbing out the window. But we were on the second floor, and Irene had nailed it shut weeks ago. Said I was too old to be climbing roofs. I crumpled to the floor, breathing shallow. And then, I heard footsteps. She opened the door slowly, holding my pump in one hand. "Oh, now you're ready to behave," she said calmly. "I'm not joking," I whispered. "Please, I'll die." She threw it at me. "Next time, ask nicely." Friday. I barely moved. She didn't speak to me until dinner. When she did, she said, "If you think your little episode will get your dad to break up with me, you're wrong. I've survived worse than you." She stared at me. "I've buried worse." I didn't understand what she meant then, but something in her face. It wasn't theatrical. It was cold. Something had changed. That night, I kept the pump under my pillow. Saturday. The power went out around 9 p.m. At first, I thought it was the grid. Then I saw her, flashlight in hand, walking calmly into the basement. I heard her flip switches. Deliberately, she had shut the power off, including the Wi-Fi and the landline. My phone was still with her. My backup battery had vanished, no way to call for help. I was trapped in a silent, powerless house with a woman who hated me. I stayed up all night. Sunday, the final day, she brought me breakfast. Eggs, toast, orange juice. She stood there, smiling, waiting for me to eat. I didn't touch it. I asked, "What's in it?" She didn't blink. "Love," she said. I knocked it to the floor. She didn't flinch, just left the tray on the carpet and walked out. Monday morning, Dad came home. I ran to him, hugged him so hard I almost knocked him down. He laughed nervously. "Whoa, buddy, what happened?" I looked at Irene. She smiled sweetly, arms folded. "Everything went perfectly," she said. I wanted to scream the truth, tell him everything, but I didn't. Because I knew what would happen. He'd ask her, she'd lie, and he'd believe her. 3 weeks later, my school counselor noticed the bruises on my arm from when she'd yanked me during one of our arguments. I broke down. CPS got involved. Dad fought it at first, but eventually, the truth came out. The locks, the starvation, the insulin, the threats. She wasn't arrested, but she left. We haven't seen her since. But sometimes I still wake up sweating, thinking I'm back in that room, thinking she's just outside the door, holding the key. I was 13 when my dad introduced us to the woman who would change our lives forever. Her name was Lena. My name's Maya, and I have 2 younger brothers, Ryan, who's 10, and Eli, who's just 2. We live in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood in a small town called Elmgate in Oregon. My mom died in 2019 from an undiagnosed aneurysm. One minute she was cooking dinner, the next she was on the floor. Everything fell apart after that. For the first year, Dad was a ghost. He went to work, came home, made us boxed mac and cheese, and then sat in front of the TV until he passed out. I tried to hold things together. I helped with Ryan's homework, fed Eli, changed his diapers, and tucked him in at night. I was just a kid trying to fill in for the parent we lost while the other one drowned in grief. But then came Lena. Dad met her at some grief support group he tried out. She was there for her sister, she said. I remember the first time she came to the house. I'd just come back from school and there she was in the kitchen, tall, put together, wearing a navy blouse and white jeans like she came from a photo shoot for some lifestyle blog. She had this wide, too perfect smile that didn't quite touch her eyes. I knew immediately that I didn't like her, and I swear she didn't like me either. At first it was little things, passive-aggressive comments. When Dad wasn't in the room, she'd look at my hair and go, "You ever think about brushing that?" Or she'd say things like, "Girls your age shouldn't be so bossy," when I reminded Ryan to put his dishes in the sink. My dad didn't notice. He looked at her like she hung the moon. She cooked for us. She laughed at his dad jokes. She took selfies with Eli and posted them on Instagram with hashtags like #bonusmom. Dad ate it up. Within 3 months, she was spending most nights over. After 6 months, her toothbrush had its own spot in the bathroom. One night, Dad sat us down and said Lena was going to move in. He expected us to be excited. I wasn't. Neither was Ryan. But we nodded. Things started to get weird right after she moved in. One afternoon, I came home from school early, half day for parent-teacher conferences. Dad was still at work. Lena was supposed to be watching Eli. I walked in quietly and didn't hear Eli's little babbles or the usual cartoons. The house was silent. I set my backpack down and headed upstairs to check on him. As I passed Dad's room, I noticed the door slightly ajar. Inside, Lena was standing at his dresser, his locked dresser, where he kept important documents and a small metal safe. She was holding a slip of paper and whispering to herself. I froze. She must have heard the floorboard creak because she spun around and smiled wide, too wide. "Oh, hey, Maya," she said sweetly. "Just looking for some extra blankets. Your dad said they might be in here." That was a lie. The blankets were in the linen closet. Everyone knew that. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked to Eli's room, heart pounding. He was asleep in his crib, cheeks flushed red. Lena came in behind me, still smiling. "You scared me. Thought I was home alone," she laughed. "Want a snack?" I told Dad that night what I saw. He chuckled. "She probably just forgot. Don't be so suspicious all the time." A few days later, I was heading up the stairs and saw Lena coming out of Ryan's room. She shut the door behind her quickly. "What were you doing in there?" I asked. She didn't flinch. "Oh, just opening a window. It's stuffy up here, don't you think?" After she left, I went into Ryan's room. Both windows were shut. The room didn't smell like it had been aired out at all. I told Dad again. He just sighed. "Look, I get that it's hard adjusting, but can you just try for my sake? Try. Like it was my job to fix this." 2 nights ago, everything changed. Dad, Ryan, and I were out at a school event. Lena stayed home with Eli. We came home around 9, but I told Dad I was heading to the library to return a book. I didn't. I circled back and quietly let myself in through the garage. I just had a gut feeling. From the hallway, I heard Eli screaming. Not a normal cry, a terrified scream, the kind of sound that makes your stomach flip. And over that, Lena yelling, "Shut up! Shut the hell up!" I ran into the living room and found her standing over Eli's high chair, fists clenched, face twisted in rage. When she saw me, she jolted like I'd electrocuted her. "Maya, I didn't see you there. He's just fussy. Get away from him," I snapped. She didn't speak. She turned and walked out of the room. I scooped up Eli, who clung to me sobbing, and I held him until Dad came home. I told him everything. He didn't brush it off this time. He looked stunned. That night they argued behind closed doors. I heard shouting, then silence. I thought maybe he was starting to see what I saw. That night I woke up around 2:30 a.m. Something felt off. I opened my eyes and I swear on my life, I saw someone standing by my door. A figure, female, still, watching me. I sat bolt upright. The figure turned and left, pulling the door shut. I scrambled out of bed and threw open the door. The hallway was empty, but I saw my dad's bedroom door just closing. I didn't hesitate. I burst into the room. Dad and Lena were in bed. I shook Dad awake. She was in my room. Lena sat up, bleary-eyed. What? I was sleeping. I saw you, I snapped. Dad just looked between us, groggy and confused. Maya, you were dreaming, it's late. Go back to bed. Lena's face was blank. For the first time, no smile, no fake charm, just cold eyes, watching me. I backed out of the room. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I started keeping my door locked. I moved a chair under the handle. I didn't care if it looked paranoid. I was paranoid. For a reason. The next day, Dad told me Lena was going to stay with her sister for a bit. I didn't ask questions. Maybe he was starting to wake up. But that night Ryan came to me, pale and shaken. She came into my room, he whispered. When? Last night. I was awake. She stood by my bed and whispered something. I don't know what she said, but she just kept smiling. I wanted to throw up. I found a small notebook in her drawer the next morning, hidden under her sweaters. Just pages of scribbles. One line repeated over and over again. She's the one who's in the way. She's the one who's in the way. She's the one who's in the way. Sometimes it was written neatly. Sometimes it was wild, manic. But it was always the same line, over and over. I took pictures. I showed my dad. His face went pale. He didn't say much, just nodded and told me he'd take care of it. She left that night. Bags packed. No goodbye. I wish I could say that was the end of it. But sometimes, when the baby monitor in Eli's room crackles late at night, I hear something. A whisper. A laugh. A voice that sounds like hers, soft and cold. I check every time. There's never anyone there. I don't know if she's watching us still, but I know what I saw, and I'll never forget the way she smiled. I never thought marriage would come with so many shadows. When I met David, he was warm, reserved, intelligent, the type who didn't just fall into conversations but stepped carefully into them. He had a kindness to him that I hadn't felt in years. I was recovering from a long, draining relationship in New York when I met him at a gallery opening in Portland. It was like stepping into a quiet place after a storm. He told me early on that he had a daughter, Clara. I was honest too. I never wanted children of my own, but I thought I could love someone else's given time. We dated for over a year before marrying, and I tried. I really did try, with Clara. But something was always off. Even before the wedding, she barely looked at me. When she did, it felt calculated, not shy. Her smile never reached her eyes. I thought it was just teenage discomfort. She had lost her mother in an accident 4 years earlier, and grief at that age makes everything sideways. But 6 months into the marriage, I started to wonder if grief was the whole story, or if there was something else living inside Clara's silence. The house we moved into was in a quiet suburb of Pine Brook, Oregon. Pine trees lined the streets and deer would sometimes cross the lawn early in the morning. Idyllic. Deceiving. At first, Clara just ignored me. No good mornings, no hellos. Then it became passive-aggressive, slamming her door when I passed by, turning the TV up when I was on a work call, snickering when I tried to cook something new. Small things, but they add up. Then it escalated. One day I found black ink smeared across the white duvet in our bedroom. It looked like some grotesque Rorschach test. My favorite beige heels, painted green. My phone charger kept disappearing. My perfume dumped into the toilet. David was always gentle with her. She's just adjusting, he'd say, rubbing my shoulders. It's not easy for her. You're the first woman in her life since her mom passed. Just give it time. I wanted to believe him. I loved him. But love wasn't enough when Clara started pushing boundaries I didn't even know existed. It got worse when David had to go on a 3-day business trip to San Diego. I remember the way she smiled when we dropped him off at the airport. Her lips curved, but her eyes were empty. She waved too long, too slow. That evening, I caught her wearing a necklace my late grandmother gave me. A small, delicate locket. She stood in front of the mirror, gently running her fingers over it like she owned it. "You didn't ask," I said, trying to stay calm. She shrugged. "I don't have to ask. This house is half mine." "Number." "It's not about that. It's about respect." She turned toward me, her fingers gripping the locket. "You're not my mother," she said, voice low, "and I'm not trying to be. But while your dad's gone, I'm in charge, Clara." She stared at me for a beat too long. Then, without breaking eye contact, she yanked the necklace until it snapped. I snapped too. I took her phone. She ran to her room, screaming. She slammed the door so hard the hallway picture frames rattled. I called David. His voice was tight. He was clearly upset. But he backed me. "She can't keep doing this. Keep the phone until I get back." That night I felt strangely proud of myself. I thought I'd finally set a boundary. But then I made a mistake. I opened the phone. I wasn't snooping. I had grabbed it by habit, thinking it was mine. The cases were identical. I went to the gallery to find a picture I had taken earlier. But instead, I found me, sleeping. There were at least 30 photos, all blurry, all from different nights. Some were taken from the corner of the room, others from the side of the bed. One was from directly above, like she had climbed on something to hover over me. I felt sick. My hands trembled as I scrolled. The timestamps were always between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Some of the photos included David, asleep on his side, but many were just me, mouth open, neck exposed, deeply unconscious. The last photo was taken from under the bed. I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. Why? Was she planning to humiliate me? Post them online? Or was it something more sinister? I locked my bedroom door that night for the first time since moving in. The next morning, Clara acted like nothing had happened. She even said thank you after breakfast and asked if I wanted help with laundry. It unsettled me. I was shaken, but I decided to try reinforcing good behavior. I gave the phone back. At 2:37 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Click. A small metallic noise. Then, bang. The door burst open. Clara stood there, phone in hand. The faint blue light glowed across her pale face. Snap. She took a picture. I bolted upright. "What the hell are you doing?" She didn't answer. She ran. I chased her, heart pounding. "Clara, stop. Why are you taking pictures of me?" She turned, slow and deliberate, eyes wide but not scared. "Because he didn't believe me," she said quietly. "Who didn't believe you?" "My dad." I froze. "Believe you about what?" She held out the phone. "You never looked," she said. She scrolled back to a photo. One of me sleeping. She pointed at the ceiling in the picture. "Turn up the brightness." I did. My skin crawled. Shapes. Thin, elongated shapes crisscrossed above the bed. Almost like arms. Dozens of them. Like something clinging to the ceiling like a spider. Another photo. Same shapes. Only this time, one arm was stretched lower, toward my neck. Another photo. Closer. The shape was inches from my face. Long. Human-like. But distorted. "I saw it once," Clara whispered. "I thought I was dreaming. But I kept seeing it at night. It hangs from the ceiling above you. Only you." I told Dad, but he said I was imagining things. That I needed therapy. "Clara, why didn't you tell me?" "You hate me," she said flatly. "You'd think I was lying." She handed me the phone. It only comes when you're asleep. I wanted to deny it, say it was a trick of light, a filter, anything. But I had seen it too. A shape in the dark. Twice now I'd woken up to find the room feeling too heavy. Once I swore I saw something skitter across the ceiling. I thought it was a shadow. But shadows don't breathe. That night I couldn't sleep. Clara slept on the couch, too afraid to be alone. We left all the lights on. At 3:08 a.m., I heard a scratching above the bed, like nails on wood. I didn't move. Then I heard the sound of the camera shutter. Clara from the doorway raised her phone. Her face went pale. "Don't move," she whispered. I didn't. She showed me the screen. The ceiling above my bed looked torn, like something had peeled back a flap of drywall, a black void in the wood, and emerging from it, a face. My own. But wrong. Mouth too wide, eyes too large, skin too smooth. It wasn't human. It was wearing me. I fainted. David came home the next morning. I showed him the photos. He refused to look. "I don't know what you're trying to prove, Isabel. She's a child. You're the adult. This needs to stop." I couldn't believe it. "You think I'm faking this? Why would I?" He just shook his head. "This house has been tense for months. Maybe you're not ready for all this." I stared at him, the weight of betrayal heavier than fear. That night I packed a bag. Clara followed me to the door. "I'm sorry," she said. I turned to her. "Clara, was it always there? Before I came?" She didn't speak at first, then whispered, "No." "What changed?" Her eyes welled up. "It came after you. I moved into a rental apartment in the city. I left the necklace, the house, and even David. But not the fear. Because I've started waking up at 3 a.m. And last night when I turned on my phone, there was a new photo in the gallery. Of me. Sleeping. From above. And the face peering down. Still wearing my smile. I never thought moving into a new home would feel like a warning. When you blend families, you expect a few rough patches, adjustments. But what I experienced over those 3 months with my new stepdaughter, it wasn't natural. It wasn't just grief or stubbornness or some phase. Something lived inside that house, inside her. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Aisha Menon, 34, a freelance web designer. I married Samir, a civil engineer, 6 months ago. We met during a road project in Pune. He was kind, calm, the kind of man who didn't just listen but actually heard you. It was his gentleness, his steadiness, that drew me in. And then there was Tara, his daughter from a previous marriage. She was 8. I didn't meet her until we were already engaged. Samir had insisted she needed time. Her mother had passed unexpectedly the year before, and he was cautious about introducing anyone new. But when I finally did meet her, I remember thinking she looked like a porcelain painting. Big, solemn eyes and hair black as coal. She was polite, even sweet. Quiet. Too quiet, maybe. I mistook that quiet for shyness. Now I know better. We moved into a bungalow on the outskirts of Lonavala, perched near the wooded hills. It was Samir's idea. A peaceful environment for Tara, he'd said. The house was charming, with high ceilings, old teak doors, and winding staircases. I admit, I loved it. Our first few weeks together were uneventful. Tara would wake up, eat, attend her online classes, and then quietly disappear into her room for hours. She never watched TV, never played outside. Her one obsession was dolls. She had dozens, stuffed in the corners of her room, perched on the window ledge, even hanging by strings from the ceiling like some art project gone wrong. One night while unpacking, I found an old wooden chest in the attic. Curiosity got the better of me. I pried it open and found a dozen vintage dolls, dusty, chipped, and some with missing limbs. It creeped me out, honestly. But when Tara saw them, her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen before. "These were mine," she whispered. I didn't argue. Samir thought it was harmless. "She's been through so much," he'd say. "If these make her feel safe." Safe. I didn't feel safe. The first incident was small. I was alone in the house one morning, Samir at work, Tara at school. I was finishing dishes when I heard soft humming, childlike, distant. At first I thought it was from outside, but it came from upstairs. I paused. Maybe Tara was home early, I called out. Silence. I walked upstairs, opened her room. Empty. But the dolls, those cursed dolls, had moved. I was sure of it. They were no longer clustered by the window. They were in a circle on the floor around a tea set that hadn't been there the day before. Still, I told myself maybe she'd just arranged them that way earlier. I closed the door, uneasy. Tara's behavior began to change. She started watching me, not with affection or curiosity, but something colder, like she was waiting for something. She began muttering to her dolls, whispering things I couldn't hear through the door. I once walked past and caught a phrase. "She's not ready yet." I froze. Later during dinner, I casually asked her who she was talking to. "My real mommy," she said, chewing slowly. "She lives in the walls." Samir laughed it off. "She means in her memories." But she didn't mean that. A week later, I found something under her pillow while changing her sheets. A drawing. It showed 3 stick figures. One was clearly Tara. One was Samir. The third had X's over the eyes and red crayon all around the head. Beneath it was a single word. "Aisha." I confronted her gently. "Tara, sweetheart, did you draw this?" She looked at me and smiled. "She told me to." "Who did?" "The one who wears your face." I began having nightmares. I'd see myself walking through the house, except it wasn't me. It was a twisted, grinning version of me, eyes hollow, skin stitched. It would stand at the foot of Tara's bed, brushing her hair as she whispered, "Make her go away." I started locking our bedroom door at night. Samir noticed my distress, but he was stretched thin with work and guilt. "You're just adjusting. Tara's processing a lot. It'll get better." It didn't. One afternoon, while cleaning Tara's room, I found a doll I'd never seen before. It was a miniature version of me. Same clothes, same hair. But its face was burnt, half melted. Its hands were red with paint, or blood. That night I woke up to scratching, not from outside, from inside the walls. At first it was faint, then louder, like tiny hands dragging nails against plaster. I shook Samir awake. "Do you hear that?" He sat up, groggy. "Hear what?" As soon as he spoke, the sound stopped. I started documenting everything. The drawings, the dolls, the voices, the furniture moving. Samir grew frustrated. "Aisha, I think you're not well. You think I'm making this up? I think you're overwhelmed. I think she's possessed." That was the first time I said it aloud, and I knew how it sounded. But Tara wasn't just a grieving girl. Something was inhabiting her, feeding off her, using her. That night he slept on the couch. 2 nights later, Samir left for a 3-day site inspection in Nashik. I begged him not to go. He kissed my forehead. "She's just a child." Number she wasn't. The house was eerily silent without him. I made dinner, called Tara. No answer. I found her upstairs, sitting cross-legged on the floor. The dolls were arranged around her, one in her lap. The doll that looked like me. "Tara, dinner." She didn't move. "Tara?" She turned her head slowly. Her eyes were black. Not like metaphorical dark eyes, literally black. Glossy and full, like ink. "She's almost ready," she whispered. "Just need the rest of your face." I ran. I locked myself in the bedroom, heart racing. I called Samir. No signal. The lights flickered, then went out. I stood in total darkness, holding the door shut, tears streaming. Then a voice, software innocent. "Mommy." It's tea time. It came from under the door. I screamed. Something began scraping the wood. Slow, methodical, carving words. I flipped on the flashlight. The word stay was etched into the wood. Then the smell, burnt hair and meat. I opened the closet. All my clothes were gone. Instead, dozens of doll limbs, stitched together, hanging from coat hangers. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke at dawn to silence. Sunlight peeked through the curtains. The birds were chirping. Had it all been a hallucination? I walked cautiously toward Tara's room. She was sitting in her bed, blankets pulled to her chin. The dolls were all gone. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "She was using me, but she likes you now." "Who?" Tara looked up and smiled. Behind her, the mirror began to ripple like water, and my reflection blinked. But I hadn't. That was 3 weeks ago. Samir came back to a quiet house. Tara was cheerful. I was calm. I'd cleaned everything. No more drawings, no more dolls. I told him I was fine, just needed rest. He believed me. But I know the truth. I watch myself in the mirror sometimes. I don't move, but my reflection does. And sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I hear that sweet little voice whisper, "It's tea time, Mommy." And I answer, "I know." In the beginning, I believed I was one of the lucky ones. My name is Isaac Walker, and I grew up in a quiet suburb called Maple Hollow, just outside of Eugene, Oregon. It's one of those places where the streets are lined with maple trees. Every neighbor knows your name and nothing bad ever seems to happen, until it does. When I was 10 years old, my entire life shifted. My parents fought a lot that year. My mom, Laura, had started drinking after losing her job, and my dad, Daniel Walker, was trying to keep everything together. His work, the bills, me. It wasn't working. The shouting became constant, the silence afterward even worse. Then one morning, my mom just left. She was supposed to take me to school that day. I remember waiting by the front door with my backpack on. When she didn't come down, I went to her room and found the closet door open. Her clothes were gone. The drawers were empty. My dad told me she'd gone to clear her head, but after a week passed with no calls or messages, it became obvious. She was gone. I kept waiting for her for months. No one ever found her. No body. No goodbye. Just gone. Dad broke, in his own way. He threw himself into work. Late shifts, double shifts, anything to stay out of the house. For a long time, I was just the quiet kid at school with the ghost of a mom and a dad who only spoke in tired sighs. Then came Rebecca. She was introduced as a friend from the hospital. Dad said she was a nurse who had helped him with a back injury. She was in her early 30s, tall, with copper blonde hair and warm green eyes. Everything about her was graceful. She wore soft sweaters, smelled like lavender, and had this way of talking to you like you were the only person in the room. At first, she'd just stop by for dinner. Then she stayed overnight. Then one day she moved in. I didn't mind. Honestly, I was lonely. And Rebecca was perfect. She made the house smell like fresh cookies again. She left notes in my lunchbox. When I got sick, she sat with me all night. She even framed my drawings and hung them on the fridge. I started calling her Mom without even realizing it. For the first time since my real mother vanished, I felt like we were a family again. I wish I could say it stayed that way. The first sign that something was off came when I was almost 15. It started small. Headaches. Then came the dizziness. I'd wake up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. I was losing weight, and my muscles constantly ached. My doctor ran tests but couldn't find anything conclusive. He chalked it up to stress or maybe a viral infection. Rebecca was endlessly caring during that time. Every night she sat at my bedside with warm tea and vitamins. "Just a phase," she said with a smile. "You'll be strong again soon." But the worse I got, the more controlling she became. She wouldn't let me eat anything unless she made it. She started giving me special smoothies every morning, greenish, bitter, but she insisted they were detox blends. She said they'd help flush out the infection. Then came the syringes. One night, I was lying in bed when she came in with her leather medical kit, the one I'd seen her bring from the hospital. "I've got something that'll help you feel better," she said, smiling. She pulled out a syringe filled with a pale blue liquid. My heart skipped. "What is that?" "Just a little tonic. I used to give it to patients back in the ICU. Think of it like a vitamin shot." Something about the way she said it sent a chill down my spine. Then she added, "You're an angel, Isaac. And I want to make sure you don't hurt anymore." She said it like she was proud, like it was a gift. I sat up, instantly uneasy. I don't think I need that. Really, I'm okay." Her smile faltered for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You're just scared. I understand." She stepped forward. I leaned away. "Number, seriously, I don't want it." Then for the first time since I met her, her voice changed. It was colder, firmer. "You need this. Trust me." And she grabbed my arm. I yanked away and jumped out of bed, backing toward the door. She was fast, though, faster than I expected. She blocked the exit, holding the syringe in front of her like a knife. "You can't go to heaven if you keep fighting it, Isaac," I screamed. That scream saved my life. My dad came running up the stairs. He burst through the door just as Rebecca lunged at me, syringe still in hand. He shoved her back and grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him. Rebecca screamed something I'll never forget. "It's time for you to leave too." Then she drove the syringe toward his throat. He blocked it, barely. The needle scraped his skin but didn't go in. He wrestled her to the ground and pinned her there until the police arrived. What followed was a blur of flashing lights, interviews, and quiet stares from paramedics. Rebecca was arrested on the spot. The toxicology report later showed that the injection she tried to give us contained thiopental, a drug that, in large doses, can cause respiratory failure. Detectives searched the house. In her locked cabinet, they found poison, thallium, slipped into my food for weeks. That's why I was getting weaker. That's why I felt like I was slowly dying. It turns out she had been poisoning me little by little. And if I had taken that shot, I would have died in my sleep. She was later diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and severe depression. But that wasn't all. In court, her journals revealed something that haunts me. She had been obsessed with the idea of purity, of releasing the ones she loved from pain. She believed that death was peace, a gift. And the most horrifying part? She never saw what she did as wrong. After her arrest, the house felt hollow again. I recovered with time, physically at least. Mentally, I still struggle. I have trust issues, panic attacks, and I jump whenever I smell lavender. My dad never forgave himself. He still doesn't talk about her. I kept asking myself one question over and over. Why? Why would someone so kind, so loving, try to kill me? The truth is, I still don't know. All I remember is the last thing she did before they took her away in cuffs. She turned to me, smiled that soft, warm smile, and started humming a lullaby, the same one she used to sing to me when I was sick. I was only 12 when my mother walked out. No warning, no letter, not even a final glance at me. Just gone. Dad tried to explain it away, said she'd been unhappy for a while, that sometimes people break. But I knew that wasn't it. I heard the yelling at night. I heard her crying in the bathroom. And I saw the way he looked at her when he thought I wasn't watching. Like she was a burden, a loose thread that needed snipping. By the time I was 15, he met someone new. Her name was Denise. Denise was younger than my mom by at least 10 years. Blonde, pretty in the way Instagram teaches people to be pretty. She had a nurse's uniform and a soft voice, at least when he was around. She moved in after 3 months. My father used to call me his brilliant girl, Used to help me with school projects, stay up late watching sci-fi movies with me. But once Denise came into the picture, I became inconvenient. Like I reminded him of a past he was trying to erase. He became someone else. Someone quieter. Someone who nodded when Denise said I was acting up, even if I hadn't said a word. The house stopped feeling like home. And Denise? Denise started showing her true face the moment the front door clicked shut behind my dad in the mornings. "I'm not your mother, Ellie," she'd snap while scrubbing the counter that didn't need scrubbing. "So don't look at me like I owe you anything." I never did. "I know what you're trying to do," she hissed once while pinning my favorite shirt to the laundry room floor with the heel of her boot. "Trying to turn your daddy against me with your little pity act." Another time, when I had the flu and vomited in the hallway on the way to the bathroom, she made me clean it up with paper towels and sprayed bleach right near my face, making my eyes sting. No one wants a weak, disgusting child in their house. That word stuck with her. Disgusting. She used it often. And the worst part? My dad didn't see it, or pretended not to. One night I confronted him. "She's mean to me, Dad. She says awful things." He looked at me like I had accused the son of being fake. "Denise works 12-hour shifts to support us. You should be grateful. Maybe if you didn't act so cold." That was the night I knew I was truly alone. By 18, I was gone. I enlisted in the Army 3 days after graduation. Basic training was hell, but it was freedom. I pushed through deployments, sandstorms, blistered hands, and sleepless nights just to feel something that didn't come with Denise's perfume or my father's silence. College came after that. Then a quiet little wedding. My husband, Marcus, is kind. The first man who's ever listened to me without trying to edit who I was. We bought land near the outskirts of a dying town in Pennsylvania. Old farmland no one cared about anymore. On the back half of the property stood an ancient, crumbling house, half consumed by ivy. The plan was always to tear it down. I never saw my father again after I left. He didn't call. Not when I got married. Not when I graduated. Not even when my name popped up in the local paper for winning an award in engineering. Marcus asked once, "Do you ever want to reach out to him?" I just shook my head. He made his choice. It was 2 months ago when I saw her again. I had driven 2 hours to a larger mall just to clear my head. Marcus was visiting his folks, and I didn't want to be alone on the property with my thoughts. I saw her at Bella's, a high-end lingerie boutique she wouldn't have stepped foot in when she was married to my dad. But now, in her 50s, Denise was still clinging to that false beauty. Tight jeans, overarched eyebrows, and a phone permanently glued to her hand. She didn't recognize me. Of course she didn't. I had grown into a different person. Short black hair, broader shoulders, confident posture, and no trace of the fragile teenager she used to torment. "Excuse me," I said, stepping beside her. "Do you know if the parking garage is still open on the east side? I can give you a lift if you're heading that way." She blinked, offered a tight smile. "Sure, that'd be lovely." And just like that, she got into my car. No questions, no hesitation. She didn't feel the sting of the injection until we reached the edge of our property. The moment she slumped, I knew I had one shot to make it right. I drove her body to the old house. No one drove down our dirt road. No one would hear her scream. Not that she could. I kept her sedated until she was secured to the old wrought iron bed I'd bolted to the floor. When she woke, I watched her eyes flicker with confusion, then fear. The first thing she said was, "Is this about money? Because if you let me go..." "No," I said calmly, placing a bowl of food in her lap. "It's about the truth." She fought the first week, screamed until her voice cracked, tried to kick and twist and bite. But I kept her clean, fed, and alive. That was part of the punishment. "No one's coming," I said during one of our long, silent nights. "My father died 2 months ago. Heart attack." Her expression cracked just a little. He loved me. No, I whispered, leaning in. He tolerated you. I fed her lard and syrup and salt-drenched mashed potatoes. Sometimes I let her fast for a day, just to make her hunger break her pride. It worked. She stopped spitting in the bowls. The gossip I spread helped too. I created burner accounts and posted all over social media. Denise left Tom for a younger man, took off with his money. I printed flyers and stuck them to public boards in town with a photo of her and the words, "Have you seen this woman? Heartbreaker, gold digger, liar." I made her invisible. I buried her reputation before I buried her body. And over the months, Denise changed. She gained weight from the forced feeding. Her skin, once glowing, turned gray. Her eyes lost their fire. The same mouth that once spit cruelty at me now mumbled to the ceiling in disconnected phrases. Sometimes she cried at night. Sometimes she begged for someone named Tom. That's when I knew she was starting to break. But I wasn't done. It was 3 months in when I brought the mirror. I sat it against the wall beside her bed, angled just enough so she could see what she'd become. She whimpered. "Eat," I said, holding out the bowl. "Or I'll make it worse." She obeyed. That was the final sign. That night I sat beside her, brushed her matted hair with careful fingers, and whispered the same words she used to say to me when I was 12 and too afraid to look in the mirror. "You're deformed." Her swollen face twitched. She looked at me, really looked at me, and something clicked behind her eyes. It was recognition. "I knew your mother was weak," she rasped. I smiled. "And now you'll know what weakness feels like." She didn't scream when I slid the belt around her neck. When it was over, I poured industrial chemicals on her corpse, bagged the remains in thick plastic, and stuffed them beneath rotting floorboards. 2 days later, the backhoe came. "Whole place is collapsing," the driver said. "You're doing the right thing." "Yes," I nodded. "It's time to bury the past." The structure came down in pieces: walls, dust, wood, and bones. Everything hauled to the landfill, exactly where it belonged. I never told Marcus the full story, only that the old house had been unsafe, and I needed it gone for peace of mind. We built a garden there instead. Bright flowers, stones with quiet etchings. Sometimes I walk through it barefoot in the mornings, letting the dew collect between my toes. I feel no guilt. I feel clean. Because monsters don't disappear when you run. You have to become the reckoning they never saw coming. I remember the first time I saw her. Not in a dramatic way, not some thunder crashing behind her like in a movie. It was in a Target parking lot in rural Tennessee, mid-afternoon, a little humid. I was waiting in the car with the window cracked while my dad came out with paper towels and allergy meds. And there she was, wearing a floral dress that looked like something from a decades-old catalog, too bright for that cloudy day. She was tall, blonde, and so still she might have been posing for something. She looked completely out of place. I had no idea then that this woman would move into my house, change my life, and become the root of every nightmare I still carry to this day. Let me backtrack. My name's Eli Parker. I was 17 when it all happened. My mom had died of ovarian cancer 2 years earlier, and my dad, Graham, hadn't been the same since. He stopped laughing, stopped eating much, and barely looked at me anymore. I can't blame him. We were both grieving in our own ways. But the silence in our house grew like black mold, thick, creeping, unspoken. Then, one morning out of nowhere, he said, "We're driving up to Knoxville this weekend, meeting someone." That someone turned out to be Anya. He didn't say where he met her at first. Later I found out he'd been on some weird dating site meant for Eastern European women seeking American husbands. It sounded like something out of a scam documentary, but she was real. Very real. Very intense. When Anya moved in, she did so fast. Within 2 weeks, her clothes were in Mom's old closet. Her coffee mugs were in the kitchen cabinet. Her perfume filled every room. She didn't smile much, but when she did, it never reached her eyes. She was Romanian, and her English was choppy but functional. She was probably 28, barely 11 years older than me. And while she wasn't exactly cruel to me in the beginning, there was something off about the way she looked at me, like I was some obstacle in a game she had already planned the ending to. The house started changing too. Dad suddenly got more energy. He started cooking again, playing old records. I even caught him dancing with her in the kitchen one night. I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. But then the rules started. No talking after 9 p.m. Keep your door closed, always. No friends over without permission. Permission that Anya never gave. Dad seemed unaware. Or maybe he just didn't care. He was too busy pretending we were some happy family. One night I came home from my part-time job at the movie theater to find my bedroom door locked from the inside. She opened it slowly, as if startled, then claimed she was just checking for spiders. There were none. But my laptop was still warm. I started noticing small things. Emails I hadn't read yet were marked as opened. My closet rearranged. Once I found her in the garage at 2 a.m., just standing by the deep freezer. Lights off. No explanation. She smiled when she saw me. Just missing snow, like back home. I told Dad. He laughed. She's quirky, son. Give her time. You know grief messes with people in weird ways. But this wasn't grief. This was control. I tried calling my aunt, Mom's sister, but the number was suddenly no longer in service. When I asked Anya about it, she said maybe I dialed wrong. 2 days later, I found my phone's call history wiped. Then came the bruise. It showed up under her eye one Monday morning. She wore sunglasses during breakfast and said she slipped in the bathroom. But I heard the whispering on the phone the night before. She spoke in Romanian. I used a translator app to catch parts of it through a recording. Words like follow, threat, husband doesn't know, and Parker boy. That last part hit like ice water. I confronted her, asked if someone was threatening her. She got quiet, real quiet, then said, "You should not listen to what is not meant for you. It's very dangerous." Weeks passed. One night I heard footsteps in the hallway around 1 a.m. I peeked out. It wasn't Dad. It was Anya, holding one of Mom's old scarves. She walked into the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed, just stroking the fabric, staring at the wall. I stood there for 5 minutes. She never blinked. I started sleeping with my bedroom door blocked by a chair. Eventually, I tried doing what any teen with Wi-Fi would do. I searched deep forums, Reddit threads, immigration forums, anything. Turns out Anya wasn't Anya. Not really. Her name was Anna Maria Dobre. She'd been married before. Twice. Both husbands had died within a year of the marriage. One in a freak hunting accident in Oregon. The other fell off a balcony in New Jersey. No convictions, no suspicion, but rumors. I brought this to Dad. He slammed the laptop shut and told me, "I love her, Eli. She's had a hard life. She needs this chance." No, we needed a chance. A chance to survive. The last straw came on a rainy Thursday. I woke up late. School had been canceled for weather. I got up to grab cereal and found Anya sitting at the dining table staring out the window. She didn't look at me when she said, "You dream loudly." What? You scream your mother's name in sleep. You miss her very much. I hadn't told anyone that. Ever. That night I faked sleep and watched as she entered my room quietly at 3:12 a.m. She stood beside my bed for nearly 5 minutes. I kept my breathing steady. She whispered something in Romanian too soft to catch, then walked out. That's when I went to the police. But I had nothing solid. No bruises, no recordings. Nothing that screamed danger, just instinct and fear. They told me to stay safe and document everything. So I started. Photos, videos, audio recordings, password-protected drives. One morning, I left for school early and doubled back. caught her rummaging through my drawers. Later, I found a small piece of paper under my mattress. It read, "He trusts me more. You will go soon." The breaking point came the night I found the crawl space open. It's behind the laundry room. No one goes in there. I was doing laundry late and noticed the panel was loose. Inside, I found a shoebox with Polaroids, photos of me, sleeping, brushing teeth, driving. One with my window open, clearly taken from outside. And at the bottom, a photo of my mom. The last one showed her grave. Fresh flowers, white roses, Anya's favorite. I ran, took everything I had, got in my car, and drove. Ended up staying with my friend Mark's family. Told them part of the truth, enough to keep them cautious. 3 days later, Dad called, crying. Anya had disappeared. Left a note that said, "I was not wanted, so I go where I am." Police found her suitcase buried in our backyard. Inside, my mom's old journals, her wedding ring, hair. Yes, actual hair. They never found Anya. Not a trace. It's been 5 years now. I'm 22, studying psychology and trauma therapy. But I still lock my bedroom door at night. I still check crawl spaces. And sometimes, only sometimes, I see flashes of white floral dresses in crowds. They say trauma leaves scars. But some scars don't stay on skin. They live inside the walls of your memory, watching, waiting. I was 13 when my father introduced her to me, the woman who would later ruin everything. He didn't call her his girlfriend, at least not at first. He said, "This is Madison. She's a friend." That was a lie. A soft one, maybe, meant to cushion the blow. But a lie all the same. Mom had only been gone 7 months. She died of an aggressive cancer that hollowed her out so fast I barely remember her as anything but tired. She used to be vibrant, full of sarcastic comebacks, always humming while cooking. She fought hard until the last 2 weeks when she could no longer speak. I remember her squeezing my hand as the hospice nurse cleaned the morphine IV. She blinked slowly, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. She died on a Sunday morning in the house we still lived in. Her scent remained on the pillowcase until my dad finally washed it one night without telling me. I never forgave him for that. Her name was never spoken again after the funeral. It was as if my mother never existed. When Madison first entered our lives, I tried to be civil. It's what Mom would have wanted. Madison was younger than my mom, but not dramatically. She wore expensive perfume that gave me headaches. She laughed too loud at Dad's jokes and always brought me something whenever she came over. Cheap jewelry, iced coffee, those frosted cookies from the bakery near the park. Bribes. I pretended to like them. Dad softened around her. That's what I noticed first. He began shaving every morning again, making pancakes on Sundays like he used to. He even replaced the porch light bulb that had been out for months. He smiled more, but never at me. At her. Madison moved in the summer before high school started. I came home from a friend's house and half her things were already in our closet. She'd taken the left side where Mom's dresses used to hang. Dad said it was temporary, just until she found a place. She never did. Madison was never outright cruel, not at first. She didn't yell or hit or lock doors. She was more surgical, quiet. She made you question your own memory. At first, it was the little things. The lunch I packed would disappear from the fridge. I'd ask, and she'd smile and say, "Are you sure you packed one?" I didn't see anything. Then I'd feel crazy. Or she'd use my body wash, leaving the cap off, and when I asked, she'd say, "Maybe you're just forgetful, honey." Always with that tone, like I was 5 and confused. Dad never questioned her. She cooked for him, ironed his shirts, laughed when he came home tired. If I ever said something felt off, he'd brush it away. "She's trying, Izzy," he'd say. "Give her a chance." By sophomore year, she had a key to everything. The house, the car, even the little fireproof box that held our birth certificates. Her name was added to all the bills. Suddenly, she was calling my dad's co-workers, our friends. I don't remember when she started wearing Mom's old robe, but one day I saw it on her while she watered the plants and nearly screamed. When I told Dad it wasn't right, that she shouldn't wear Mom's things, he told me I was being dramatic. "It's just a robe," he said. But it wasn't. She started redecorating in waves. First, the guest bathroom, new towels, a fancy mirror. Then the hallway. The family photos came down, one by one. The last to go was the framed photo of Mom and me from 3rd grade, taken at the park, both of us grinning with grass in our hair. One day it was gone. I searched everywhere, even the attic, but never found it. I asked Madison about it directly. That was a mistake. "Oh, that old thing?" she said. "I think the frame broke. Or maybe I put it in one of the boxes in the garage. I'll look." She never did. My sleep started to fray. Some nights I'd wake up to footsteps that stopped just outside my door. Sometimes the knob would turn, just a bit, like someone testing it. When I brought it up, Dad dismissed it. "It's an old house, he said. "Things creak." But one night I caught her, Madison, standing in the hallway, still, barefoot, staring at my closed door. I pretended to sleep. The light under the door glowed faintly from the hallway. I watched her shadow stay there for nearly 10 minutes before it slipped away. The next morning, she made me French toast. My junior year, I started staying out late. Work, friends, the library, anything to avoid the house. Madison began texting constantly. "Where are you? You didn't tell me you'd be late. Your dad worries." But it wasn't my dad texting. It was her. One night I came home around 10 p.m. Dad was asleep on the couch. The house smelled like bleach. Madison was in the kitchen, wiping the counter with slow, methodical strokes. "Late night?" she asked. I had to study. She smiled but didn't look at me. "You know, I worry about you. This world isn't safe for girls alone." I grabbed a water and walked to my room. That night I slept with the chair pushed against the door. Senior year brought college applications and briefly a feeling of freedom. I got accepted into Oregon State, 2 hours away. Not far, but far enough. When I told Dad, he looked proud. "Madison?" She said nothing, just smiled. 2 weeks before graduation, she cornered me in the hallway. "You know," she said, "you should think about deferring. Your father's not getting any younger." I stared at her. "I already accepted the offer. He's fine." She tilted her head. "Families stick together. That's all I'm saying." Graduation came. Dad took pictures. Madison smiled the entire time. That night, something strange happened. I woke up to the smoke alarm blaring. Ran downstairs. The microwave had caught fire. Madison stood there, tears streaming down her face. "I just wanted popcorn," she said. The kitchen was ruined. Insurance took care of it, but I never believed it was an accident. Neither did the fire department. "Unplugged wrong," they said, but I knew better. She wanted attention, or sympathy, or a reason to blame me. Dad was shaken. She started sleeping in the guest room and told him it was just for a little while. When I left for college, she hugged me tightly, too tightly. "I'll miss you, Isabel," she whispered. "You're like the daughter I never had." I didn't respond. College was bliss. For a while, I called home less and less. My dad seemed quieter, tired. Then he stopped answering my calls altogether. Madison would text instead. "He's resting. He's been feeling under the weather. He's sleeping a lot lately." By winter break, I'd had enough. I drove home early, walked in unannounced. The house was dark, quiet. Dad was in bed, thin, pale. He looked at me and smiled, but his words slurred. Something was wrong. I demanded answers. Madison insisted it was the flu. He's just tired, Isabel. But I found his pill bottles, wrong dosages, duplicates. I confronted her. You've been giving him more than he needs. She didn't deny it. Her expression shifted, cold, clinical. He doesn't want to wake up, Isabel. He misses your mother. That night I stayed by his side, called 911 the next morning. They took him to the hospital, dehydrated, over-medicated, but he survived. He stayed with my aunt afterward, away from her. Madison never answered my messages. A month later, she was gone. Vanished. No trace. No goodbye. Just a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. I only ever wanted to help. But some things can't be fixed, not even love. Tell your father I tried. We never saw her again. Dad got better, slowly. But he was never the same. Quiet. Withdrawn. I don't know what she did to him. Not really. I don't know what she was planning. But sometimes I still hear that microwave beep in my dreams or see her silhouette at my door. She never raised a hand. She never had to. Because horror doesn't always look like blood. Sometimes it looks like a smile. I never wanted a second mother. When my real mom died, it wasn't sudden. Cancer gives you time to say goodbye, but not enough to stop it from ripping you apart when the end finally comes. I was 13, old enough to understand what death meant, but too young to know how to carry it. My dad, Richard Kimball, didn't talk much during that time. He handled it the way men from his generation did, by working more, fixing things that weren't broken, and watching late-night television until he passed out on the recliner with a beer in hand. We were close in the years before Mom got sick, but grief does strange things to people. He pulled away, and I didn't know how to reach him. We lived in a suburb outside Denver, in a modest 2-story home with creaking stairs and an attic we never used. After Mom passed, the silence in the house grew teeth. It bit into everything. Meals were eaten in silence. Holidays passed without celebration. The world moved on, but our house stayed stuck in that sick room stench of loss. It took him about a year to start dating again. I wasn't surprised, but I pretended to be. Her name was Lydia. She was a widow too, apparently. I say apparently because a lot of what she told us never added up, though I didn't realize that until much later. She was tall, with sharp cheekbones and shoulder-length brown hair, always well put together, always smiling, even when it didn't make sense. There was something overly rehearsed about her warmth, like a person who had memorized the lines to be likable, but couldn't quite make them feel natural. They met at a grief counseling group, my dad said, one of the few he ever actually went to. She must have stood out. He introduced us one night after dinner, just the two of them standing awkwardly in the living room while I stared from the couch. She brought a pie. Cherry. Store-bought, though she swore it was homemade. My dad looked at me, like he expected me to welcome her with open arms. I said, "Hi," and went upstairs. For a while, I told myself I was just being protective of my mom's memory, that no one would ever replace her. But deep down, even from the beginning, I knew it was more than that. There was something off. Something I couldn't explain but felt in my stomach like a dropped stone every time Lydia came around. They married after only 5 months. She moved in the next week. That's when things really started to change. The first thing Lydia did was redecorate. She took down all the photos of Mom. Every single one. The wedding pictures, the beach trip snapshots, even the little framed Polaroid of her holding me as a baby that used to sit on Dad's nightstand. All gone. Replaced with bland canvas art and generic quotes like live, laugh, love. The living room became unrecognizable within days. I thought a fresh start would be good for everyone, she said one afternoon, catching me glaring at the bare walls. You could have asked, I muttered. Sweetheart, she smiled, the word sticking like syrup. Sometimes it's better to just do. She started cooking every night, even though I told her I preferred to make my own food. At first, Dad thought it was sweet. "She's just trying to take care of us," he said. "She wants us to be a family." I didn't say what I was really thinking, that this wasn't a family, it was a performance, and I wasn't buying a ticket. Strange things started happening around the house. Small things at first. A bracelet my mom gave me went missing. My phone charger kept disappearing. I'd hear Lydia on the phone in the kitchen late at night, whispering in a tone that wasn't meant for anyone else to hear. When I asked her about it, she said she was just talking to her sister back east. But I never saw her call anyone during the day. She never mentioned family again. The guest room upstairs, the one that used to be my mom's crafting room, got locked. Always. Lydia had taken it over and said it was her meditation space. Dad didn't seem to mind, but I once caught her coming out of it at night, holding what looked like a folded piece of clothing wrapped in plastic. When she saw me, she flinched and smiled too quickly. "Couldn't sleep," she said. "Just organizing." I nodded, but I didn't believe her. It was around the 3-month mark that I started keeping a journal. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed something to keep myself from unraveling. Every time something felt off, I wrote it down. January 6th, she was standing in my room when I got out of the shower, said she was just checking the smoke detector. January 10th, found a photo of Mom torn up in the trash, no one else home. January 12th, heard a whisper in the guest room, like chanting, door locked. I didn't show Dad. He was too far gone. Lydia had wrapped herself around his grief like ivy on a tree, and he didn't want to be uprooted again. They'd cuddle on the couch at night while I sat in my room listening to music with headphones on, trying not to think about how alone I really was. Then came the sleepwalking, or at least that's what she called it. One night around 3 a.m., I woke to find her standing in the doorway of my bedroom. Just standing, not moving, not saying anything. Her nightgown was sheer and hung off her like drapery in the wind, even though there wasn't a breeze. Her eyes were wide open. "Lydia?" She didn't respond. "Lydia, what are you doing?" Still nothing. I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. She blinked slowly, then turned and walked away. The next morning, she laughed it off. "Oh my God," she said over toast. "I used to sleepwalk all the time as a girl. Isn't that embarrassing?" I didn't laugh. Neither did my dad. But again, he said nothing. By March, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. I started staying over at my friend Ashley's house more often. Her parents were kind and didn't ask too many questions, but Ashley could tell something was wrong. "She's weird," she said bluntly one night, as we lay on her bedroom floor painting our nails. "She's dangerous," I corrected. "Why don't you tell your dad?" "Because he's blind," I said. "She's got him wrapped around her bony finger." Ashley paused. "You ever think she might have done something to her last husband?" I looked at her. "I mean, she's just too perfect, you know." I nodded. The final straw came the week before school let out. I came home early from class because I had a stomachache. The house was silent, so I figured no one was home. I went to the kitchen to grab a Sprite, and froze. The guest room door was open, wide open. The smell hit me first. Rot. Like spoiled meat and moldy laundry had been sitting in the sun. I covered my mouth and stepped closer. The room was dark, the windows blacked out with thick curtains. Inside, the walls were covered with newspaper clippings. Some were old and yellowed. All of them were about missing women. In the center of the room was a small table with candles, a framed photo of my mother, burnt at the corners, and a glass jar filled with hair. My mother's hair. My stomach turned. There were symbols drawn on the floor. Strange, jagged runes in black and red chalk. A small wooden box sat in the corner. I backed out slowly and bumped into Lydia. She was standing behind me, silent. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. No smile this time. "You shouldn't have seen that," she whispered. "Where did you get that photo?" "She talks to me, you know," she said. your mother. At first it was just dreams. Then, she told me what she wanted. I ran. I didn't look back. The cops were called that night. I stayed with Ashley while they investigated. Lydia was gone by the time they arrived. She'd vanished. No phone, no car, no note. What they found in that guest room shocked even the detectives. The box in the corner. It held several bones, later identified as human. The hair belonged to multiple women. Some of the clippings on the wall were tied to cold cases across 3 states. One article from a paper in Missouri showed a photo of Lydia, but under a different name. They still haven't found her. My dad was shattered. I wanted to say, "I told you so," but all I could do was sit beside him as he cried, whispering over and over, "I didn't know. I didn't know." We sold the house a month later. It's been 4 years since then. I live in Seattle now. I'm in college, studying criminology, and I still check my closet before bed every night, because sometimes I dream of her, standing in the doorway, smiling, waiting. In the beginning, I just wanted to be loved. I didn't come from a broken home. I came from a shattered one, glass sharp enough to leave you bleeding for the rest of your life. My mother died when I was 6. The official cause was a car accident on a rain-slicked road, but the truth whispered through family and neighbors was that she ran off that road on purpose. My father was distant after that. He loved me in the sense that he made sure I had food and a roof, but he never knew how to talk to me, especially when I cried. He worked long hours at the fabrication plant in South Carolina, and when he wasn't at work, he was asleep in his chair watching football. I didn't blame him, not really, but I was lonely. That's why I noticed her so quickly when she entered our lives. Her name was Evelyn Marks, a nurse at the hospital where my father was taken after a mild heart scare. She had dark auburn hair and a voice that wrapped around you like a thick blanket. I was 11 when I met her. I remember thinking she looked like someone from a perfume commercial, sophisticated, calm, safe. They got married 9 months later. I remember the first night she moved in. She brought with her a silver-framed picture of a child, a baby girl. She said it was her daughter, Gracie, who had died when she was just 3 years old from complications after a seizure. She was my entire world. Evelyn told me that night as we unpacked the last of her things. "You remind me of her so much." I felt honored, special, seen. For a while, Evelyn was everything I needed. She braided my hair in the mornings before school. She packed my lunches with little sticky notes that said things like, "My smart girl," or "Smile today, beautiful." And I did. I smiled. I smiled even when my father stopped noticing me as much, leaving most of my care to Evelyn. I smiled even when my old toys were packed away and replaced with dolls and clothes Evelyn picked out just for me. I smiled even when she started calling me Gracie instead of my real name, Lena, saying, "It just slips out, habit, sweetie." But I was too scared to correct her. It was around my 13th birthday that I began to feel displaced. "Gracie would have loved this dress," she said, holding up a pale yellow sundress she bought for me. "You'll look just like her." I didn't want to look like Gracie. I wanted to look like me. "I don't like yellow," I said. She froze. Then she smiled, tight and too bright. "But yellow is your favorite color." I didn't argue. I wore the dress. By the time I turned 15, things had changed. She controlled everything. The clothes I wore, the music I listened to, the way I styled my hair. She didn't yell or threaten. She just corrected me. Gently, persistently. She told my teachers at school that I had social delays, that I struggled with identity grounding, and needed structure at home. They believed her. Why wouldn't they? She was always kind, always sweet, worried. She never let me go to sleepovers, never let me use a phone. Even my laptop had parental locks on it. My father was long gone at that point, heart attack in his sleep just a year after they married. Evelyn cried at the funeral like she'd lost her soulmate. Then she moved on like nothing happened. She told the court she wanted full guardianship over me, and without any other living family, it was granted. After that, the house changed. She changed my bedroom, painted it pale pink, took down the posters I'd managed to hide behind the door. She replaced my bed with a daybed and added soft, plush toys on every surface. The final touch was a photo of Gracie on the nightstand next to a framed photo of me, smiling but slightly out of focus. "You two look like twins," she whispered, brushing my hair. "It's fate." It wasn't until I turned 17 that I realized how far she had gone. One night I found an old photo album in the attic, pictures of Gracie, but something was off. Her face had been scratched out in every single picture, not violently, but carefully, methodically, like someone trying to erase and replace. In the back of the album was a folder filled with papers, documents. One caught my eye. Name change application. Lena Marie Harper, Gracie Evelyn Marks. I froze. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. "It's just a formality," she said, stroking my arm. "We're just making what's already true, official." I told her I didn't want that. She told me that wasn't my decision. I ran away that night. Or I tried to. She caught me halfway down the road, barefoot in pajamas. "Don't be foolish, Gracie," she said, dragging me back by my arm. "It's just the trauma talking." I screamed. I cried. I bit her hand. She slapped me. That was the first and only time she ever hit me. After that, she changed strategies. She got me on medication, told doctors I had manic episodes. I wasn't allowed to attend regular school anymore. She homeschooled me, or tried to. Mostly, she kept me in that pink room, isolated, dressed in soft cotton dresses, fed on a strict diet, monitored constantly. I thought about dying sometimes. Not because I wanted to die, but because I couldn't escape her. But then something changed. I got sick. Really sick. A viral infection that hospitalized me for a week. I lost weight. My motor control weakened. And Evelyn, she was delighted. "I'll take care of you," she whispered at my bedside. "My baby's back." When I returned home, she had converted my room. The bed was replaced with something resembling a hospital crib, padded with high rails. My clothes were gone. In their place were pastel onesies and soft booties. The bathroom was locked. She insisted on helping me with everything, feeding, bathing, dressing. "It's just until you're better," she said, spooning formula into my mouth. "Let mommy help." I wasn't her daughter anymore. I was her project, her replacement, her Gracie. One morning I overheard her on the phone. "No, the guardianship is still active. She's not legally competent. The doctor signed off on it." That's when I knew. She wasn't going to let me leave. Ever. I had to find help. I tried everything, leaving notes in the mailbox, writing messages in soap on the window. I even managed to crawl to the back door one afternoon, screaming until a neighbor came out. Evelyn came out smiling, calm as ever. "I'm so sorry, she gets confused easily. She had a seizure this morning. Frontal lobe involvement. She says strange things." They believed her. They always did. The breaking point came the night she said, "Tomorrow we'll finalize the name change. I even got the new birth certificate." "No," I whispered. "Yes," she said, brushing my hair as I lay in the crib. "I'll do whatever it takes, Gracie. You're mine now. Forever." That night I didn't sleep. I waited until I heard her in the kitchen. Then I climbed out of the crib. I didn't have much strength, but adrenaline is powerful. I made it to her bedroom, where I found her laptop. And I recorded a message. I told the truth. Every bit of it. The abuse. The lies. The forged documents. The forced regression. I sent it to a former teacher's email I remembered. Then I passed out. When I woke up, it was bright. There were police, doctors, people asking questions. I told them everything. They didn't believe all of it at first. Evelyn was very convincing. But the video saved me, along with the notes I'd left and a journal I'd kept hidden beneath the crib mattress. Evelyn was arrested that afternoon, charged with identity fraud, medical neglect, unlawful imprisonment, and psychological abuse. It's been 3 years. I live with a foster family now, in North Carolina. I've changed my name back. I'm in therapy. I don't sleep well. But I'm trying. I still have dreams sometimes. Dreams where Evelyn is standing at the foot of my bed, holding a bottle of formula, whispering, "You're mine, Gracie." But then I wake up, and I remember, I'm not Gracie. I never was. I'm Lena Harper, and I survived.